Hey, welcome to ClankTV. This is Reyes coming back at you, and as you know, we've been searching for the bottom line of what happened to Tupac. Did he die? Is he alive? And for that, we have a very special interview with Sean DeFrank, who is a witness to someone that heard Tupac's last words. So you wanna stick around for this. Sean, you're on the line?
Yes.
Hey, how are you, man?
Hey, pretty good. Good to talk to you.
Good. So tell us a little bit about you. Like, what do you do? Where you live? We get a little background on who you are.
Sure. Well, I live in Las Vegas. Actually, Henderson, Nevada, which is right next to Las Vegas. I grew up there. I've lived in the Las Vegas area most of my life since I was a little kid. And worked in journalism pretty much most of my professional career since college. For many years, I worked at the Las Vegas Review-Journal, which is the largest newspaper in Nevada. I worked there mostly in sports as an editor on the sports desk. A few recent years, I worked at a magazine called Vegas 7, where I wrote the last words of Tupac Shakur, and now currently am in the boxing industry working for Heyman Boxing Management and running the Premier Boxing Champions website.
Oh wow! Got to talk to you later about some tickets. But it seems like you've been through a lot of industries. You have a lot of experience in different areas.
Sure, and definitely have been in Las Vegas for about 40 years now. So quite familiar with Las Vegas.
Oh wow! So basically the way that I found you was that article on Vegas 7 that you talked about Tupac's last words. And I don't know if you're aware, I'm sure you're aware that there's a big rumor or controversy, or whatever you want to call it, that Tupac never really died. Have you heard about this?
Well, it seems like some new story crops up every 6 months or so, some new sighting about Tupac or something of that effect.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about the article you wrote? Well, really tell us about your account and the words that you've heard, and tell us the story about Tupac's last words from your perspective. Sure.
Well, for those who haven't read the story at all, the narrative actually comes from my cousin, who is now a retired Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officer. On the night of the Tupac shooting, he was actually a bicycle officer on the Strip, and he was the head of the bicycle unit on the Strip. And he happened to be riding down Las Vegas Boulevard, coming from the MGM Grand, where he had just attended the Mike Tyson Bruce Seldon heavyweight title fight. Tyson knocked Seldon out in less than a round. Anyway, my cousin was there in the arena when that happened, and after the fight, he took off on his bike and started heading down the Strip.
He was there working. So
I'm sorry?
He was there working. The fight or watching the fight? Was he a fan or was he there working?
Well, he was on duty, but at the time he was just kind of in the arena, just as part of the overall police presence there. But then once the fight ended, he went back out onto the Strip, just knowing Saturday night Tyson fight out on the Strip. Anything could possibly happen, and sure enough, something crazy did.
Okay, so he was one of the first responders to the incident with Tupac. Can you tell us what he told you about it?
Sure. So anyway, he never told me this story until basically he was retiring. Like I said, I've worked in journalism for the last 20 some years. And obviously he, my cousin's well aware of that. So he knew, he told me that whenever he was going to publicly tell the story, that he had me in mind for it the entire time. Just because. So anyway, when he sat down to start telling me the story, I had never heard it. And as soon as he started telling it, I immediately knew that he was talking about the night that Tupac was killed. So anyway, he was riding down on his bike and had heard the call come in on the radio from the other bicycle officers who were down by what was then the Maxim Hotel off of Flamingo Road in Koval, which is about a block off of the Strip. My cousin got the call that there had been shots fired, and that was when Tupac was shot. And the bicycle officers basically took off. They were in the parking garage, so it took them a while to even get out and to pursue the vehicles that had taken off. So they just called it on the radio, and as my cousin's hearing this call on the radio, he realizes that the cars that have just left the area of the shooting are now heading down the Strip, and they're heading in his direction. And at this time, he has no idea who shot who, how many people are involved, how many cars are involved, how many people are shooting, what the shooting is about. He's just a cop literally coming up on the scene on his bicycle and has no idea at all what's going on.
Wow. And was there a lot of traffic there? Did he mention anything about the traffic that night?
I mean, there had to have been because it was a Saturday night on the Strip, and Suge Knight, in trying to get away from the scene, and that was having to drive up on the sidewalk to get away, and that's what caused at least two of the tires to blow out of the car, and for the rims to get just dented up to hell. And the flat tires are basically what caused the car to stop as Suge Knight was heading south on Las Vegas Boulevard and then was going to try to make a left turn onto Harmon Avenue, which, if you want to picture the Strip right now, and granted the Strip looked very different 20 years ago, but it's basically the corner where like the Cosmopolitan and City Center and all that is right there now. But again, none of that existed then. The Strip's a lot wider now than it was then. So yes, it was very crowded for sure. But I'm just trying to give you a picture of where on the Strip it occurred, even though it did look a lot different back then. So anyway, the car comes to a stop as it's trying to make the left turn just because the tires are blown out and that. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but a few other cars were in pursuit, which was basically Tupac's entourage who had seen the shooting and thus seen Suge Knight make the U-turn. They all, in essence, then made U-turns and were following the car. And so then my cousin pulls up on his bike just in time to see Suge Knight's car coming to a stop, all these other cars coming up behind it. He just, throws down his bike and just gets off. And then the next thing he knows, he has, multiple guys getting out of multiple cars. Again, not knowing who shot who. Is somebody coming to shoot, some more people? I mean, he has no idea, who's a victim, who's trying to do what. He just sees guys running around, so he's pointing his gun just at different people and yelling for guys to get down, and not even realizing that here's Tupac and Suge Knight sitting in the car. Both of them shot themselves, so he actually told me that when he didn't end up getting shot himself immediately, he was actually braced for people to start shooting at him, and it just never happened, which surprised the hell out of him.
Wow. And so they made a U-turn. So the people that shot them, they kept going straight, or did he ever mention? Are these the only cars that he saw, or did he ever see that other white car that supposedly shot Tupac, or was there any mention of that?
I mean, he probably couldn't even tell exactly how many cars were even there at the time because everything is it's happening so fast. As far as the car that shot Tupac and shot at Suge Knight, that car turned right. I mean, from all the accounts I know and from all the police reports and everything, that car turned right onto Koval and just took off. And I think maybe one car might have pursued that one, somebody in Tupac's entourage or whatever. But that car never headed back down the Strip.
Wow.
The car that shot Tupac, that car just took off, basically.
Well, so when the Las Vegas police, I'm assuming that their main priority was getting to the people that were shot. And maybe that's part of the reason that they didn't pursue the assailants, or or did he ever?
I can't speak for the department as a whole. I can just tell you about what my cousin has told me about his experience that night, and then what I've read, which is the same stuff that everybody else can read. So I can really only I can only speak for what my cousin has told me and such, and what I've read, and I can't account for any other police activity or anything like that, or any strategies or anything of that account.
Okay, and so once Tupac gets out, I'm assuming I haven't read the reports, but that Tupac was the only one shot, along with Suge Knight was the other person. So when he sees these are the victims, or at least apparent victims, what happens? How does he move here?
Well, at first everybody else is out of the car, and he just sees somebody sitting in a car, which is Tupac, and shot, but my cousin doesn't know this. He just sees a guy sitting in a car. For all my cousin knows, Tupac is some guy with a gun in there waiting to shoot him. So my cousin is all, very cautiously approaching the car and yelling, "Get the hell out," and stuff like that. And at this point then is when Suge Knight, who is out of the car, is like yelling, for Tupac. So anyway, my cousin opens the door, and I think it took him, I don't know, because of the bullet holes or whatever, it took him some doing, or maybe because of the car wrecking or whatever, but he said it took him, like, the door didn't open easily. And when he finally got it open, he said Tupac essentially fell on him, and was just covered in blood and everything. And that's when Suge Knight was yelling Tupac's name. My cousin, again, still not knowing who's done what, who's trying to shoot who or whatever. My cousin's yelling for Suge to get back. And it's just, it was just a crazy scene. And my cousin said he could tell Tupac was, pretty badly hurt. And as an officer, one of the things you try and get is what's called a dying declaration, where if somebody is dying, you try to get them, like, what happened to you or whatever. And when he asked Tupac, who did this to you, what happened, that's when he said, like, Tupac just started kind of like gurgling and was trying to get his strength just to talk. And that's when he kind of said his famous last words now.
And what were those?
Well, I'd like people to read my story. Could easily go on the internet and find it, but
you can say, well, we'll plug your stories. Basically, it's in Vegas 7, correct? Vegas7.com. Well, actually, they could just search for you, Sean DeFrank. We're gonna link it. We're gonna link all of this. So, but basically, the alleged words, and I'm sorry to say alleged, because as you can see, everyone's gonna take everything that we're saying and they're going to make their own story. So I wanna not go in either direction. But he was saying "fuck you," right, to the police officer, to your cousin.
He basically my cousin asked him, "Who did this to you? Who shot you?" And in essence, Tupac said, "Fuck you." And then and then right after that is when, by that point, like, other cops were arriving, the ambulance had arrived, and they put Tupac in the ambulance. My cousin asked one of his guys to ride with in the ambulance just in case he did say something more or something to that effect. And, they had like a mask on Tupac and that. And he went into surgery right after that. And even though he was conscious and lived for a couple more days, he never really said anything after that.
Okay. And now going into those famous words, was it because, there's different ways. I know it's a bad word here in the United States, but, like, let's say fuck you could be seen in so many different ways depending on how you use it. For example, was it like a fuck you as in anger? Like, fuck you, help me. Like kind of like fuck your questions. Like, I'm in need of help. Or was it like a fuck you, I'm not telling you jack shit about what happened here? Or did he ever give any insight?
From the way my cousin relayed it, it seemed more a statement of defiance more than anything.
Okay, so like he's not a snitch.
Maybe he knew he was dying. I mean, I don't know. I'm just speculating, but maybe Tupac just knew he was dying, and and he just wasn't going to give a cop the satisfaction.
Wow, that's so deep. It's very deep. If those are his last words of defiance, and I read it in your article that part of the reason your family member didn't want to bring this information before is this will make him so much more of a badass. Right, where it's like, oh wow, he went out, defying the police.
Exactly.
So he didn't want to do that. Right?
It just builds on Tupac's legacy. And at the time, my cousin didn't want to give Tupac that satisfaction. But and with us talking, and we both came to the agreement and the conclusion that so many years have passed. Tupac already is a hero. To a certain community in that, and by revealing this at this point in time, it doesn't make Tupac any more of a martyr to some people than he probably already is anyway.
Well, he's pretty immortal to a lot of people. That's the reason that all of these subjects keep coming up. So, in your opinion, and this isn't based on fact, this is based on your opinion, is it possible that Tupac is still alive?
No, and then here's why. I mean, so many people would have had to have been involved in this. I mean, and from everybody to not only Tupac and his family, but friends, cops, attorneys. The Clark County coroner's office would have, because the Clark County coroner is the one who did the autopsy and released that he was dead and all that. His mom confirmed it. So many people would have had to have taken part in this and been paid off. But I mean, you know damn well you can't tell 5 people something without it getting out. Something of this magnitude to be kept secret for 20 years or whatever it's been now, without any hard evidence having come out that Tupac really is alive. I mean, yes, I know it's a nice thought for some people. Hell, some people still want to believe Elvis is alive, as old as he would be. Yes, it's a nice thought, and it feeds into his legend. But I don't think there's any chance at all that he's alive, because there's no way you could keep that kind of thing secret for 20 years.
Okay, and your cousin, is he still alive? My
cousin?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And is he? What is his take on the whole situation? I know that he saw him laying on the ground, but how does he feel about people not believing that he's dead? I mean, or is your cousin open to a conversation per se?
Oh, it's humorous to him. I mean, as it is to me at this point, with as much as I know about the case and the story. I mean, it's funny, and I'll say this, even though you didn't ask me this, because right away, and even in writing the story and in talking to my cousin, and I worked on this story for months, and and we talked about this. We said, look, as airtight as this story is, and as factual as it is, there are going to be people out there. And there's probably going to be people that listen to your podcast that are like, bullshit, this is not true. None of, this cop made this story up, whether Tupac's dead or not, just about that my cousin's own take on it, that it's false, it's bullshit, it didn't happen that way. To anybody who wants to say that, here's what I have to say as a response to him. In May, that story will have been out for 2 years now. And then now getting close to 2 years, there's not one person with any shred of credibility to come forward at all and say that and including cops, whoever, there's nobody who can come forward and say that story is false. Nobody has said it, and nobody will come forward and say it. Suge Knight won't come forward and say it, because that's how it happened.
Wow. Yeah, you got a point there. So there were other cops at some point right after that happened. It wasn't just your cousin. I'm sure other policemen.
He was just the first one there.
Okay, because he's the only one that really has spoken about it. You know, I haven't heard any other cops that on that night that have said anything that they've seen.
When I was doing the story, I talked to other cops who were there that night. I had my cousin put me in touch with other officers who were on the scene that night who came afterwards, and the ones I talked to said, yes, that is how it happened. So.
Okay, that's super fair there. So again, how do we find you? Are you a social media guy? How do we get in touch with you? People that want to comment, follow you, see what you're working on.
Oh yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I'm all over there. It's just my handle is my name. It's at Sean DeFrank, which is SeanDefrank. And you can find me easily on social media. If you have any questions or comments, or want to call my cousin and I a liar or whatever, feel free.
Okay, great. And then I would love to have a conversation with your cousin. Is your cousin open to having a conversation such as this?
I'd have to talk to him. I can't speak for him on that.
Because I'm sure that's what everyone's, that's the next step. Everyone watching this, they're like, okay, they're going to take your statement, and then it's never enough for people, as I'm sure with all everything that you're getting, all the feedback you're getting. And, they're probably going to want to hear first-hand accounts. And I think it's really not going to end until we see a Tupac body, which apparently he was cremated. So these are all the things that we need to go through in order to either put the rumors to rest, or come up with Tupac somewhere in Cuba. I mean, I don't know where.
I don't think the stories will ever be put to rest, because I don't think there's. I mean, at this point, you're not going to be able to prove any more than it's been proven that Tupac is dead. I mean, you'd have to prove at this point that he's not dead, and if you can't produce any more evidence, I guess, that he's not dead, then I guess there's always going to be doubters out there.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. Especially, when we don't have the person that cremated him, because, there's no names, there's a lot of missing information. And I think if people will come forward, such as you, by the way, thank you, then we can start putting these pieces together and see the whole spectrum a little clearer. So really, really appreciate you being here.
Even if those kind of people came over, there'd still be somebody who said they were lying. So.
Well, it's a lot of people with a lot of hope, and I think Tupac, like you were saying, like he's a legacy. His legacy is still living today, 20 years later. That tells you how impactful he was. And I don't think that there's any artist out there, at least in the urban genre, that has that power right now that he's had. So thank you so much, Sean, for having this interview. And definitely let me know, if your cousin would love to just have this chat. It will make a lot of people feel better. And I know he probably doesn't have anything to gain from it, but he will definitely set peace to a lot of people out there that want to get to the bottom of what really happened that night. So thanks a lot.
He might be done with it at this point, for all I know, but I'll talk to him.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. Really appreciate it. You have a good afternoon.
All right. Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
There you have it. That was Sean DeFrank. And he stands by the statements, that Tupac's last words were "fuck you" that night. That he in fact, he didn't see him die that night, but he was pretty badly hurt. And so, like I said, all we're doing is just putting together these pieces, and we're going to put them together to the point that there's evidence either way, whether we come to the conclusion that definitely there's no way that he's living, or that there is probably a possibility that he is living, that we're going to continue putting this puzzle together. All right. So make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to keep coming up with these interviews. I'm going to keep coming up with different facts that I've been finding out and putting them together, and we just got to keep in the search for the truth, as fans and as people that want to keep Tupac's legacy alive like he wanted us to. We're going to continue searching for the truth. In the meantime, keeping his spirit and memory alive. All right. So till next time, I'm going to be out. Peace.